to Let's Talk Adoption. We are excited to have another conversation with you today. I'm Kim.
I'm Heather.
And here we are at the Let's Talk Adoption podcast. Remember to subscribe, and you can go to letstalkadoption.com to view past episodes as well as to correspond with us. Share with us your show ideas, suggestions, comments, feedback, and questions. We love hearing from our listeners. And Heather, today's conversation is really for the women who are wondering, how are adoptive parents really screened?
Because a lot of women, when they're thinking about adoption for their babies, that's one of the first thoughts is, how do I know adoptive parents are safe? I've heard that question many, many times, and we thought today would be a great opportunity to really go into depth so that if you are thinking about adoption, if you know someone who may be thinking about adoption, you can understand the steps and the screening that prospective adoptive parents go through just in order to be qualified to be considered for adoption.
And I would say that there are a lot more steps to the process of being approved to adopt than most people realize.
There really are. And I think really one of the first points is you can't simply just sign up. It's not like going to a dating site and filling out, the photos and the words and suddenly you're available to be seen. Adoption doesn't work that way. There is a lot that has to be done until you can be considered. You can't just fill out an application and then be on a list somewhere.
Right. So there is a process, and we're going to talk all about the process and the different components that adoptive parents need to go through. Time frame, that's a question people usually wonder about. But if you are considering placing your child for adoption and wondering, well, do they just get this done in one weekend and then they're approved? It's actually like a 2 to 4 month process depending on the program the family is working with. It could be 6 to 8 weeks to go from just starting the home study process to becoming completely approved. And there's also some educational components.
Definitely. So you said the term home study, and that's really what we're talking about today. That is kind of the term that is used to describe the whole screening process that adoptive parents go through to become legally paper ready to adopt. And it is required by law in every state. Mm-hmm. And it is typically completed by a social worker who is experienced in adoption and can, help with all the steps as well as provide that education to the adoptive parents.
Right. So the social worker will also interview the adoptive parents together and separately and sit down and have conversations or interviews with them on multiple occasions and talk with them about their views on parenting, what their support network is like, what the reasons why they're adopting, and that they really have a truly accurate understanding of what the adoption process is and are prepared to and intending to love and accept this child as their own child.
She'll also talk to them about their marriage, about disagreements, how they resolve those. Talk a little bit more even about discipline or guidance of the child they hope to adopt, what their plans are for those. And all of that information is written up and part of this home study that is also called the home study report. So it actually is a paper document as well.
Right. It's quite a lengthy, multi-paged report. And because it's called home study, a lot of people think it's a home inspection. And it's about the house the family lives in.
And it is.
Yes.
She will ensure the home is a safe place, ensure that it is well suited for a child, that there's room for a child, and that there are no safety concerns. For instance, most states require families to have a pool with a gate around their pool with a locking gate on the fence. That's something that is pretty universally required. Mm-hmm. Other safety features she may counsel and advise on, but definitely having a safe home is required for a completed home study.
And part of ensuring that a home is safe for a child is the criminal background checks.
Yes.
FBI clearances, state and local federal background checks. And the home study provider will even go back to previous states a family has lived in. So it's very thorough. It's probably one of the most thorough background checks any civilian is going to experience.
Right. They also will check the child abuse registries, anything like that, local checks at their local police stations. Really any background check that they can do is included in their home study.
And it's good for women to know that when you are looking at an adoptive family and they have completed a home study and these background checks, any adult also living with them in the home has had to go through these same background checks, child abuse clearances, neglect registries, all of those things. So, for example, if their cousin is living with them while going to college, or their little sister is living with them for now while she gets ready to have her own apartment, or grandpa lives with them, or they just have a roommate. All of those people, anyone 18 and over that's living with the adoptive family, they also have to pass these background checks.
Right. And these are mandatory. They're not optional. And that goes for other people living in the home. They have to be included because it's just one of the basic requirements of a home study.
And you know, Heather, I think something else that is important to women who are choosing adoption and choosing a family would be the financial stability of adoptive parents. So that is another part of the approval to adopt, is ensuring your adoptive parents are financially able to provide.
Yes, so they verify income, they will verify employment, they will, the parents will fill out statements of assets and their liabilities. So, you know, they may list their home, their cars, the things they have, but they also need to list any loans that are on those things, so that the social worker can really ensure that they have the funds available to provide the life for the child that they're hoping to.
And it's really not about limiting adoption to only wealthy families. It's simply ensuring that they are able to provide a normal standard of living for a child. And I mean, essentially that their spending outweighs, or their income outweighs their spending month to month, such as their housing and the basic things people need in order to live.
And you know, another kind of basic in this is their medical history and their health. You know, that's a very important aspect of the home study as well. So prospective adoptive parents are required to go and get a physical to ensure that they have a normal life expectancy. These come directly from the physicians themselves. And if they have any health concerns, those are discussed in the home study as well. It really is, the purpose is to ensure that they are healthy enough to care for the child for the long term.
And beyond just the family's life in their own household, social workers who are approving a family to adopt also want to hear from people that have known the adoptive couple for years, such as employers, friends, family members. They will ask those family members to create what's called a character reference. Right.
And that's usually in writing, directly to the home study provider, directly to the social worker. So it's not something that the adoptive parents are just getting their friends to write and give them. It's going directly to the social worker. So they may be asked to write a letter of recommendation, or they may be asked to complete a form that has specific questions in it about, you know, maybe if they already have children, maybe about their parenting, asks about their character, asks kind of detailed questions, again, to ensure that these people are also who they say they have represented themselves to be to the social worker. So those references are very important in ensuring that the home study is accurate.
And the next part that I think most people think of when thinking about a home study is the home visit.
Right.
Yeah. So Every family has to have an appointment with a social worker to come to their home, go through each room of the home, ensure everything is safe, clean, there is a room for the child, and that the home structure itself meets local requirements, such as there's no exposed wiring or anything around the house that could possibly endanger a child, that any medication or other items that could be hazardous for a child to have access to, that they are stored and secured properly. And a social worker will teach adoptive parents what those standards are and verify that they meet those standards around the house.
Right. And another really important, but often you don't hear much about the adoption education part of the home study. Many parents who are adopting may not have been parents before, or they may not have adopted before. So the social worker really spends time ensuring that they have education about, say, open adoption, parenting an adopted child, really anything that they may need as they are preparing to adopt.
Right. So there could be different things adoptive parents have a yes to in their criteria of things they're willing to and desiring of in their adoption. Because if they're open to adopting a child of any race, a social worker will probably have a complete transracial adoption training.
Right.
Right? And if they're adopting an older child, well, there may be additional training required. Of course, infant CPR for adopting a baby.
Right.
So
right.
The normal standard education is pretty much across the board.
It is.
Home studies.
It is. And I think something that's really important to know is once you have this completed, it doesn't last forever.
Yeah.
It has to be updated every single year.
Right. So there are parts of the home study that are time sensitive, such as especially the background checks.
The medical checks.
Medical checks. So adoptive parents need to get a physical every year and have their background checks updated every year while they're in the adoption process.
Right, and the financials must be updated. And if there's been any changes, we talked about someone else in the home. If they've had someone else move in or move out, if they have moved to a different home, even if they got a new puppy, those things require updates to the home study. And we didn't mention pets, but that's really an important thing to mention too. If they have pets in the home study provider will ensure there are updated vaccination records on file, and those will have to be updated every year too.
Mm-hmm. Something else that didn't come up in our conversation so far, Heather, is some adoptive parents may have gone through troubling times growing up, or as young adults especially. And so those kinds of things are going to come up in their questionnaire that they fill out for a social worker. And a social worker is not necessarily going to say, well, because you had something traumatic happen in your childhood, we don't think you should adopt. But they want to know what was done. Was there therapy? Was there ongoing support and education to help someone recover from that? And how would they choose perhaps to parent differently? Let's say they grew up with a father who yelled a lot. Well, how did that impact them as a child? How have they worked through this? And how do they plan to parent differently? And so that will be part of what a social worker goes through in assisting adoptive parents as she helps them and supports them in preparing to be parents through adoption. So it's actually a really good supportive educational process for adoptive parents.
Yeah, it also helps them prepare their support system. Whoever is in their network, that their parents, maybe their siblings, cousins, people who are also going to be a part of their child's life. So if they need tips or help, say they hope to adopt a child who is of a different race than theirs, they want to ensure that the family is prepared for that, not just the prospective adoptive parents. So they will be provided with education and tips and maybe even articles to read to help prepare their family. Mm-hmm. They also will talk about childcare, their plans for childcare as they, the child starts growing up, and maybe if they have a stay-at-home parent, they will return to work. Who's going to take care of the child? They really go in depth with their plans to ensure that parents are totally prepared to not just adopt, but to be parents. In fact, a lot of this education would be great for people becoming parents biologically, but it's not required. But maybe it should be.
It would be a good thing. So, you can rely on this process, that this is done and required of every parent who wishes to adopt. But you, as a potential birth mother who is considering adoption as a plan for your baby or child, you still have so many more opportunities to get to know the family. You get to read their profile, watch their video, have a scheduled phone or video call or in-person visit with the family that you're considering. Ask the questions, get to know them before you decide anything.
And they can also be part of your decision-making process. Sometimes you need to look at the families, and that kind of helps bring a piece one way or another as you consider adoption. But it's important to know and understand the background screening that every family goes through, so that you do know at the heart of this that they are safe, that they have been prepared, and that they have been very thoroughly screened.
Mm-hmm. And as you get to know a family and maybe even have a phone call or a visit with them, it doesn't mean you have to choose them.
Right.
You have the opportunity to speak with multiple families in order to find the family that you truly believe is the best fit for your baby or child.
And one thing that is also often, we don't talk about the post-placement visits. Once the family is home and the baby is with them, their social worker will return once a month for anywhere from 3 to 6 or more months to see how things are going, to get pediatrician reports, to ask the questions, to visit with the child and visit with the parents, just to ensure that everything is going smoothly and how you hope it is.
Right.
They will complete a report on each and every visit that becomes part of that adoption case file too. And again, it's just another way to know that the parents are safe.
Mm-hmm. And this whole process is a partnership. The home study provider is verifying all the things that we've discussed and shared with you today in the Let's Talk Adoption podcast. You also, as the birth mother, as the mother of this child, the placing parent, you also are in partnership to determine, is this the right family and is this the right plan for your child? So everything is designed to protect you and the child and everyone involved in the adoption process. It's extremely thorough. So I hope that this helps provide some reassurance, but also just awareness of all the hoops and all the checklists that adoptive parents go through. It's like Heather said in the beginning, it's not just something you sign up for and they give you a baby.
No, it's a process. And adoptive parents are actually often surprised when they start this home study process that it is as thorough as it is. It is very detailed. Like we mentioned at the beginning, it can take 2 to 4 months, and it really ensures everyone's safety. Mm-hmm. If you want to learn more about adoption, we have a link in the show notes, or you can just go to freeadoptionbook.com. You can download the book. It's called So I Was Thinking About Adoption, and it really answers a lot of questions that most women thinking about adoption ask. And like I say, it's totally free. You can read it on your phone. It is really a help for women who are thinking about adoption but maybe don't know where to start.
Mm-hmm. And I love that you're taking the time to learn as much as you can about the adoption process, and that you've listened to this episode of Let's Talk Adoption. I think that learn as much as you can and make your most informed decisions with the support from your adoption professional. And we're right here to help provide ongoing education as well at letstalkadoption.com. So thank you for being with us, and we will see you on the next one.